Blue collar here. They don't fit shoes anymore. What? What does that have to do with anything? Today, I went to buy a pair of shoes. I went to a large department store. What I have found over the years is that there are no more people, salespeople, who actually fit shoes. There used to be a little seat and a thing that looked like a little hill, and you put your foot up there, and the salesperson, usually a man at that time, would measure your foot to see what your size is. And you tell him what kind of shoe you wanted and what color. He'd go to the back and see if he had that, bring it back, then put the shoe on, help you put it on, use a shoe horn to make sure it fit the right way, and then have you tie the shoe and then walk around in it for a while and ask you how it felt. No more. That's gone. Today, the people who are in shoe sales do two things only. Number one, they will go to the back and get you a pair of shoes that look like the ones on the rack, the one that you have asked to try on. They bring it out, they're gone. They don't help you try it on. They don't ask you any questions. They are gone to the next customer. The only other thing they do is to take your money if you decide to buy the shoe. I ask you, what kind of service is this? What is this? What have we degenerated into in this country? Or maybe other countries as well. I don't know. I don't live in other countries. But what I'm saying is, this is symbolic of what has happened, the impersonalization or depersonalization in this country. And it is a bad, bad way of doing things and a bad trend. Then there are other things that fall into this category. For example, you go to a gas station. You want to fill up your tank with gas in your car. Used to be an attendant would come out, ask you how much you wanted, put in the pump into your gas tank in your car and fill it up. And then at the end would take your money. On top of that, believe it or not, they would wash your windshield. Sometimes they would even look under the hood to make sure everything was in working order. No more. The only thing they do now is, well, they don't do anything. Frankly, it's all automated. You go to the gas station, pull up to the pump, pick the grade of gas that you want, put the pump into your gas tank, and then fill it up until the point you want, put it back, and then pay by credit card. You don't even have to talk to another human being. I ask you this question, is this a way to do business? This is a terrible trend, the depersonalization of our society. Then we have our relationships with doctors. How do we find a doctor? It used to be we would talk to somebody, a friend, and they would say, try this doctor because I thought he was good. You go and look in, but you have to go to look in your provider list if you have managed care, and many people do these days. And he may not be in there. He may not be in that provider list. Then what do? And sometimes even if he's there, then if you go a second time, he's not there anymore. His office or the conglomerate that his office now belongs to has decided it's not cost effective to belong to that managed care group. Even when you go to the doctor, they don't examine you like they used to. They used to give you a thorough examination with the stethoscope, listen to your heart, listen to your neck, feel your abdomen, and have you do a few things to make sure that your body is at least superficially in working order. They don't even bother doing that anymore. Then we have the situation of neighborhoods. I have lived in 3 different neighborhoods in the last 10 years. I hear the same complaint. Nobody knows who their next door neighbor is. I moved recently, or rather, a lady that I did not know did come up to me and said, "Oh, I'm your new neighbor, but I've been here for about a year." She said, "Nobody talks to anybody over here." I said, "Well, that's what I have noticed as well. That cohesion, that togetherness sense is gone. It's absolutely gone. How about even dating? Years ago, there used to be a thing called a social, where in a community center, a religious organization, or even a paid subscription to a meetup site, and there would be socials, dances, whatever you want to call it. No more. Today, we go to dating websites. Thousands and thousands of people. At first, it seems like it's great. Look at all those people I have to choose from. But then it becomes so confusing, so impersonal. And you're dealing with people who not always, but who oftentimes are not even telling the truth, either about their age or show photos that are 10 years out of date, or lie about what they want, or they write a profile that sounds like everybody else's profile, so you don't know anything. What I'm saying about this is, why do I say this? Why am I bringing this up? It's because our world has become impersonal. And this is not good for mental health. There's no answer to it. I don't see these things as reversing. Once things go in this direction, they're going to stay in that direction or get even worse. Because money is king and money is the bottom line, and that's all everybody seems to be concerned with. So what choices do we have? Well, one thing I do suggest is that you look at my video, You must understand these things in order to understand your life. Take a look at that video. And in that video, in the third part of that video, I mentioned this concept of adaptation. Adaptation means that you have to somehow adjust to new circumstances. And that we talked about that change is one of the three things. Death, taxes, and now change, one of the three things that you must count on happening in your lives. And you have no choice over these changes. So what do? You've got to learn to adapt. And this is what this all comes down to. How will you adapt? How much of this type of living, impersonal living, can you tolerate? If you came from a small town, it may be a very difficult situation for you. And if you grew up in a situation where people were friendlier and it was just a smaller group of people, then today's living is not for you. So how do you adapt? That's the question. And the reason that why we have to ask this question is we want to live a life that has some joy to it. And even the small things like having your shoes fitted or going to a gas station and have your gasoline pumped for you, or going to a social dance or party as opposed to being online, that these things we didn't realize it at the time, but we're part of the fabric of life, and that we don't have them anymore. So what do? The way I see it, we have several options. Number one, move to a smaller town. Although you will not be able to turn back time, it will give you more of that feeling of personalization, of personal services, of personal values, where people know each other. And I think that's something that people are going to consider. Another one is to live in communities. Now, I hate to say this about gated communities and communities for people who are older than a certain age, but it does give you that sense of belonging to something. The problem now is we don't feel like we belong to anything. We're all free agents. And it's just not a good way of living. And in my opinion, this is detrimental to our mental health, whether we realize it or not. We just take it as, well, that's the way things are. I think we can't give up. And so it's up to you to decide what you're going to do, obviously. But I would consider moving into smaller areas, or areas within, smaller areas within a larger metropolitan area, so that at least you have that sense of belonging to something. Because if you don't feel like you belong to something a little bit bigger than you, then it's going to be a very cold existence. take this to heart, because this is a pattern that I don't like, a pattern that I don't feel is good for your mental health, and a pattern that's not likely to change. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to subscribe, to comment, to like, and to share my videos with your friends. This is the Blue Collar Psychiatrist, out!